Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Wrestling Inc. Daily. It is me, Nicholas Thomas Hausman, the managing editor of WrestlingInc.com, joined here as I am every Wednesday to have a happy hump day and to break down the midweek pro wrestling news. It's our very good friend, comedian Brian Wohl. Brian, welcome back to the Wrestling Inc. Daily.
Nick, I'm so glad to be here. What a day in news, and also happy birthday, my friend.
Thank you, Brian. Yes, today is my birthday, and the city of Chicago decided to gift me a blizzard. So there's a bunch of snow outside. It's still coming down. I like this kind of snowy weather. I'm a little bummed because we've made the decision to not go to Dynamite tonight because I feel like the last thing that anybody needs is for me and Liz to get stuck on the streets of Chicago rather to inconvenience others or ourselves. So, I'm going to be staying in Washington from my couch, man. I was looking forward to seeing Punk and MJF live tonight.
Well, lucky for you, you live in Chicago, which has some of the best food in the world. You can get something delivered to you. You can have a nice cold beverage and have a real VIP experience.
We got a lot of big news to get to here today, but I'm gonna let you in on a secret, right? You're right. Chicago has tons of great food, but I am cooking my own birthday dinner. I got a 3-pound rack of baby back pork ribs, and I have a couple hours ago slathered them in mustard and then rolled them around in my favorite spices. And then Liz's sister and her boyfriend sent us a really nice barbecue sauce that I am going to just roast onto those babies here tonight during Dynamite. Does that sound nice?
That sounds amazing. I'm so hungry hearing that. Wow.
I know, right? Sign me up for one of the BuzzFeed videos. All right. So, anyway, this is not a barbecue show. It is a bit of a birthday show. Samantha wishing me happy birthday. Thank you very much. We have happy birthday here from Spaceman 584, also from Gerard, John, everybody here saying nice things. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate that. Wherever you're watching us right now, live Monday through Friday, 5 o'clock Eastern on any of the Wrestling social channels, you could jump in, leave a comment. Maybe we'll pull it up here on the screen. We have some big news to get to, and we're going to want you to be engaged with it. After the news block here today, if you're listening in audio form, you're going to hear my latest conversation with MLW's EJ and Duca. You probably remember EJ's name being thrown around a little over a year ago. He was part of the first wave of what became an 18-month firing spree by WWE, and he's landed over there. He's finding success, and we kind of reflect on the success he's found and what it's like for him watching everything that's going on right now. Like, he was there right when it was still kind of normal, right? In the last 18 months, he's watched things go cattywampus to the 10th. Very good insight here from EJ and Duca today, Brian.
Cattywampus. What a great word.
Yeah. Pull that one out enough. I don't let my Texas show enough. Also, after EJ and Duca, which, by the way, is going to be up on our YouTube channel here in about 25 minutes. If you want to go watch that after we do the live recording here. We're going to dive to the mailbag at the end of the show for everybody, and we're going to discuss who you would like to see Shane McMahon feud with in AEW, which brings us right into some news you can use, news that has left a bruise. As WrestleVote says, this story could have a, quote, ripple effect or effects for years to come. Get the comments going, everybody. Let's dive on in. So Ringside News, they kicked off the news cycle this morning saying that Shane McMahon has been, quote, quietly let go by WWE. It was noted that WWE creative writers were told in a semi-quiet way that there will be no more creative discussions about Shane. They have now moved on to other creative discussions. The report also noted that Vince is quietly using the term let go to describe the situation with Shane. And while the term blackballed has not been used, word from within WWE is that Shane, has pretty much, I guess, been let go. We'll get into that here in just a second. Now, Matt Min Podcast then dives in. They say one of the issues with the 30-man Royal Rumble match had to do with rapper Bad Bunny. Of course, Shane, not listed as a producer, but was very involved in putting together that match. We talked about this yesterday, how there was a little heat on him for focusing on his stuff while everything else was going crazy. So as there were numerous changes to what number Bad Bunny was going to enter at, there was causing people in WWE concern. They were upset, and a report noted a source saying WWE didn't want to come off negatively with such a major outside star. Maybe he was having a bad time or felt inconvenienced or whatever. They don't want Bad Bunny out there speaking negatively of his WWE experience. All right, last thing I'll toss in here, and there's a bunch of other stuff that's kind of been thrown around today. But PW Insider saying Shane had been pushing for a WrestleMania 38 match with Austin Theory. Now, the idea would be that Shane versus Theory, that feud would play off of Theory's recent Raw storyline with Vince. Wasn't 100% locked into place. Other people were pushing for Shane and Rollins at WrestleMania. At one point, there was a planned Royal Rumble match sequence that was going to set up the Shane versus Seth feud, but that got nixed when Rollins was pulled out of the Rumble. What a mess. Shane was pulled from the internal Raw roster this afternoon, and word going around is that the direction has changed. So what does seem to be very evident here is that Shane McMahon is no longer with WWE. And that's the way Dave Meltzer phrased it on Twitter. And I think that's closer to the truth from what I glean right now than let go. I haven't had anybody explicitly say to me off or on the record that he was released or fired. No longer with WWE seems to be a much more broad phrase. We still have a lot we don't know about this situation, but what we do know is Shane's not with WWE. What are your thoughts, Brian?
Shocking. Just absolutely shocking. I couldn't believe it. But everything's been so wacky the last 72 hours. It's, well, even more than 72 hours. Since Saturday, the Rumble was a mess. I thought it was just such a mess of a show, and it had so much potential. And for Shane to possibly make things uncomfortable for Bad Bunny is like the worst thing you can do.
Right.
So I completely understand if that's what happened, why they would make that move.
Right.
WWE needs to be seen as a place where outside talent can come in and have a great experience and feel taken care of, much like the cast of Saturday Night Live would make someone feel comfortable.
Sure.
Gosh, I can't believe this, but man, that Rumble was a mess.
Yeah.
So,
there's a lot to take in here right now. There's one thing about this story that really is weird to me, which is just that it is so uncharacteristic, if true, that Shane was being a problem, right? Like for years and years and years, we've heard nothing but really positive stories about Shane McMahon standing up to his father, representing the locker room, being the guy to be able to go out and be one of the boys, right? Came back into the fold after, whatever happened Secession style last time and made his money over in Chinese pay-per-views and golf, right? So I want to know more about what happened here? Like what was going on at the Rumble that was getting Shane so much heat, because it's just very unlike him to have stories like this coming out. You know what I mean?
yes, I've never heard a bad story about Shane. I've never heard anything bad about Shane. I don't think that exists. So this is so shocking. It's so confusing. The idea of him feuding with Austin Theory, I think, makes a lot of sense. That would have been great. I would have really liked that.
Way more sense than Seth Rollins, that's for damn sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't get the last couple of years of Shane McMahon wrestling wrestlers that are like really good and trying to have a match with them. Shane's supposed to get beat up. He's like Mikey Whipwreck or something like that. You're supposed to just beat him up.
And the other thing about this story that I find, I'll say again, like weird, right, is it was 3 or 4 days ago that sadly Vince McMahon's mother passed away, Shane's grandmother. And I just find it very difficult to believe that days after losing his own mother, Vince McMahon would fire or release Shane McMahon in a negative way, right? I could very easily see a father-son talk at a very difficult moment as everybody's like trying to deal with nothing that has to do with the circus, right? And Shane just saying, I just don't know that this is a good time for me to be here. I didn't feel myself at the Rumble. I don't know that I should be doing this right now. That is an entirely equally plausible scenario to me right now. And that's why I feel a little like I struggle with the let go release narrative going on right now because there's just again, this isn't like Shane. We don't hear stories like this. The family's going through something that I would imagine is a very emotionally difficult thing. And I don't know, man. That just a lot of my triggers go up, with this one right now.
Yeah, I didn't think about that, and now that you bring that up, that's definitely something that probably factors into this. Because yeah, we've never heard of Shane behaving like this, so this just seems really odd. And I don't know, there's just so much chaos backstage. It seems like they don't know what direction they're going outside of Brock and Roman, and Charlotte and Ronda. Everything else seems like it's completely up in the air, and man, this is bonkers. Just for such a large company that's supposed to present itself as so professional, for it to be this chaotic is just insane.
And I've heard from several people that they point to also how Hunter was not backstage at the Rumble, and Hunter is somebody that has served as like a reasonable conduit between the locker room and management, and I without him there, without that kind of governor maybe on the McMahons in general, that could have changed the way that things were getting relayed in a very high stress, very important type situation here. Just something to think about as well with Hunter not being in the mix at the moment.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's got to be part of it. What wasn't there some sort of report of something going on between Shane and Jamie Noble or something?
I didn't see that. I mean, I
There,
don't doubt it. Yeah.
there was something I read. I forget who reported it, and I'm not sure if there's any legitimacy to it. But I did read somewhere that Shane, kind of dressed down Jamie Noble in front of people.
Okay.
Uh,
That maybe.
uh,
I don't know.
Gosh, I this is just wild. And what our next news bit, I hate to get ahead of ourselves, but
Well,
I was thinking somebody else who's kind of a stabilizing force would be Tyson Kidd.
yeah, and that's the thing is there's just a lot going on backstage, a lot of moving pieces around. We'll get to TJ here in just a second, but
Yeah.
you were talking about secession before we came on the air here and how this all feels very secession like. And I agree with it to a point because in secession, and I don't watch the show, and I probably should before I start giving any opinions right now, but it seems as if there's a constant battle going on, right? Where the chess pieces don't leave the board. The chess pieces right now are leaving the board. Hunter is not there right now. I don't know where Stephanie McMahon is. Nick Khan has come in and tossed out anybody with an opinion or passion for pro wrestling and replaced them with other people that he trusts and are going to do exactly what he and Vince tell them to do right now. I continue to go, and again, I don't know, but to me, it just feels more like a time where if things didn't feel right, walk away. It seems like there's more than enough people right now that have been doing that on their own recently anyway, leaving the company for their own happiness and well-being. And even in the bigger kind of scope of things, and I know I'm rambling a bit here, but I keep going back to what our friend Freddie Prinze Jr. said over on his podcast about talking to a Fox executive that said when they were negotiating the rights fees for SmackDown, WWE offered to sell them the entire company, and they said it was too much money. We're just going to take SmackDown. And ever since that moment, I feel like it's been a change in tone because it is obvious to them that they can sell it if they can make some changes to make it more available to buyers, right? More appealing to buyers. And I think that right now, if you have a passion or an opinion about pro wrestling, maybe WWE is not your place at the moment because they are operating in a way where it is all about dollars and cents and just barely kind of keeping this thing going popularity wise. They're not trying to court the same people as AEW anymore. There's just a lot of stuff going on. And why would you want to be in that environment? It sounds awful,
As awful as it sounds, I don't know. Sami Zayn looked like he was having a lot of fun at the Jackass premiere last night. Drew McIntyre, Dolph Ziggler were all there too. So I don't know. I feel like there's some people that still see the place as a launching point.
I feel like the difference is, and again, you're right about Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn is an anomaly right now. There are real other him and Kevin Owens, And maybe, having your brother there by your side makes it more palatable, very possible. But this is a guy who's realized, hey, I can make a lot of money. He doesn't want to run. He doesn't want to be Triple H. He doesn't want to run the company. He just wants to wrestle. He wants to be able to wrestle great wrestlers. And he's more interested in the kind of character-y, fun stuff, right? So if you just want to be a hard-ass dude that just is, beats people up, no offense to Daniel Garcia, AEW is the place for you. If you're willing to have a little fun and flavor and push outside your box and be a little bit campy, and that's your vibe, hey, of course WWE is going to be the spot for you. And I think that's Sami Zayn's proof of that,
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. It's not all bad, but it does seem like quite a mess. And Succession on HBO, you should check it out. It's a comedy disguised as a drama.
Now,
is what I would say. Which WWE kind of is.
I'd love to watch it. I'll check it out. I got some time right now. I'm currently watching the Pam and Tommy stuff on Hulu, which is ridiculous, worth a watch. But I think that I was generous enough looking at the hypothetical best case scenario side of it, actual family affairs, right? Maybe we're making much ado about nothing here, and this is just a very sensitive, private McMahon family thing. All right, let's swing the pendulum hard in the other direction here. Maybe Shane's pissed. Maybe Shane is like looking around and he's seeing what's going on and he can't bite his tongue anymore and he's upset, right? Like he just doesn't get the old man's vision for the business anymore. He doesn't feel heard. There were those reports about how Shane was like Vince was overwriting stuff Shane wanted to do in the Rumble, and like Shane was getting upset about that. And maybe Shane, like he did before, wants to go out there and prove himself. Now, how that looks with Shane no longer being in the WWE umbrella could be many things, right? Maybe he goes to AEW. That sounds crazy to say out loud, but entirely possible. If you have an axe to grind with Vince, that seems to be the place you go. There's a shit ton of amazing talent out there right now. Maybe he just does his own thing, right? Maybe Shane McMahon starts his own wrestling company, or maybe just leaves the business altogether because he's like, I don't want to mess with these carnies anymore. I don't know that he's totally done. I think he really has a passion for pro wrestling, but these other hypotheticals I'm throwing the other way. Interesting thoughts, right?
Oh yeah, I think it would be really fascinating to see Shane in wrestling somewhere else. That would be awesome. I'd love to see Shane's ideas in a new promotion. You know, what is Shane's Raw Underground really look like when he's got it on his own? Who knows? I would be so fascinated with that. I definitely, like I said earlier, do not want to see Shane wrestle a straight up wrestling match. I don't think we need that anymore. But I do think Shane has a lot to offer the business, and he does love the business. I think you're exactly right, Nick.
I think there's a passion there, and I've heard in the past that Shane was very close to launching his own wrestling company a decade or so ago, or becoming invested in another wrestling company, right? Like, he really wanted to run WCW. That's pretty well documented, right? Like, when they did that angle, he really thought he was going to have a chance to create something to compete with his dad. And that, I think we all saw how quickly that fell apart, right? There's a desire there from Shane, and it's going to be super interesting to see how it manifests here. And I love Samantha here. I could see Shane and Hunter starting a new company. Oh boy.
Oh, how cool. That would be so fun.
Undisputed Wrestling, right? So Undisputed Universal Wrestling, WW. So anyway, that's our Shane McMahon talk. We're definitely going to bring it back up in the mailbag here. But yeah, let's bring up this next story that you were mentioning, and that is, of course, this one from Fightful, saying Fit Finlay was brought in to produce the Women's Rumble because Tyson Kidd has not been producing matches for WWE for several weeks now. It was noted that the reason for Kidd's absence was actually tied to the Royal Rumble, but no other details were provided. What a tantalizing tease there. So Kidd is still an employee. He is working as a producer, but his absence was felt by the wrestlers on Saturday. Wrestlers who participated in the Women's Rumble match said it was a mess. Morale was already low. This comes after a rehearsal for the match was held on Friday night. One talent noted that WWE should have had more main roster or contracted talent than veterans on hand for the match. And another talent described the bout as complete chaos. Regarding Kid, word is that at least one women's talent passed on participating in the Rumble because they learned Kid was not the producer. Wow. Damn.
I like the early stuff with Sasha.
Yeah.
I like that part. I like the Nikki and Molly exchange. There were some parts of the women's Rumble match that I enjoyed, but
real paint by numbers, right? Every third beat you're dropping in a moment or something, but real paint by numbers. That was the complaint about the men's. I mean, they were basically the same match, honestly. I mean, you just had Ronda at 28 and Brock at 30. I mean, there's a 90-second difference in, when they came out, but same match pretty much.
Yeah, and both were bad.
Yeah.
Come on. And it's so tough because it's my favorite match of the year. I look forward to this all year. This is like my favorite pay-per-view.
And I wonder if they told Kid that he wasn't going to get to do the Rumble this year, or they're bringing Fit back, or again, we don't know. Like, with all the headaches you've got right now, why are you removing a cog, a piece like Tyson Kidd, who's working great in his role? I don't understand why you would remove him from the machine. Doesn't make any sense to me.
The matches he's produced have been awesome. I love his matches. I don't get it. I don't get it.
Yeah. All right. And lastly here, Fightful saying Brian Kendrick has received his WWE release. He's no longer under contract. He's going to make his debut against Jon Moxley tonight on Dynamite from the Wintrust Arena in Chicago, which a couple things to digest. One, very interested to see what the crowd looks like, because I'm sure I'm not the only one who's like, I'm not putting my life in danger to go watch a wrestling show tonight. So I don't know what the actual attendance will look like. That'll be interesting. But I don't know. Did you see the resurfaced comments from Brian Kendrick that have been making their way on Twitter today, Brian?
I did. It really hurt my feelings. I like Brian Kendrick as a wrestler, and I didn't know that he held so many anti-Semitic beliefs. And I really hope that he has evolved from the time that he was captured on video spouting these terrible, terrible anti-Semitic beliefs. And man, because I would like to support him, but he said some real trash.
I want to know if he stands by those comments or distances himself. I'd actually like him to give him I'd like to get a comment from him before we run the comments ahead. But I mean, we got to do it before Dynamite. I mean, it's timely. But it needs to be addressed, right? I mean, if this was something he did a little acid, sat down, and but there was like a blog he wrote where he was like playing down the Holocaust. I mean, really bad stuff. And I wonder if he makes it to AEW TV tonight, or if they change the Moxley match. Because, dude, it's Chicago. It's Chicago, man. Like, these are smart fans. And if they send that guy out there tonight, I mean, he's definitely the heel. I'll put it that way. He's going to get heat,
Yeah, I don't appreciate that trash that he said. That was real bad.
Yeah.
And I really hope that he is very apologetic and has evolved from the terrible stuff that he said.
Yeah. All right. Well, Brian, thank you for joining me at the top of the show to talk all the news today. Thank you to EJ and Duca. He's going to be in action this Thursday night on MLW Azteca, so tomorrow night. Go check it out. Free over on YouTube. It was filmed down in Mexico. What a great experience for this guy to finally get out of the Performance Center, head down to Mexico, get to learn how to do a little lucha. Different. So, EJ, Brian, it's time. Everybody, it's time for the mailbag. Today's mailbag question, which I realized about an hour after I posted it, I misspelled the word hypothetically. I left out the Y. So it just as hypothetical, right? 2 L's. Weird. Who would you like to see Shane McMahon feud with in AEW? I liked the choices I picked. It was Cody Rhodes, CM Punk, or MJF, or somebody else. And it looks like I hit the 3 best choices on the nose, because Cody got 35.8, Punk got 37.5, and MJF got 20.3. Of those choices, or anybody in AEW, what makes the most compelling feud for you?
I feel like Shane has got a feud with Cody for an executive vice president spot in AEW, so that he can work his way up in the company.
I feel like Cody and Shane are honestly made for each other. I put Cody up top because I feel like those two would know how to work a program. It's like the Rhodes family and the McMahon's family coming together, the youngest of the the youngest sons of the family coming together and doing it their way. And Shane would bleed and Cody would bleed. And then here comes the money, right? Red equals green. So, man.
I'd totally pay to watch that match.
Yeah, and like I think Cody would be a fun feud for Shane. I think Punk would be interesting. I'm not enamored with the Punk run right now. This is going to be this is going to be a big night for Punk. MJF could go in the ring. He's not just a talker. I mean, you go back and watch that Darby Allin match from I think it was Full Gear. Those guys, that was a wrestling match, right?
Yeah. And MJF's match with Jungle Boy. That was another great one too.
Yeah. So it's going to be a real test for Punk tonight to go out there and hang with MJF. And, we'll see what happens. I'm very interested. But then, MJF and Shane, I would be more interested in that than the Punk Shane stuff. Like MJF getting a chance to kind of lay into a McMahon would be fascinating television. Be great.
I mean, God, anything with MJF right now is fantastic. He's so compelling to watch. He's so dialed into his character, and he's in a groove.
I see the bus cat over here on Twitter saying either Bryan Danielson or Tony Khan. Danielson would be great. I love Danielson off the chain right now. And then, does Shane McMahon versus Tony Khan? With Tony, I guess, holding the book. It just doesn't. Don't do it for me. I don't know. Right?
No. I don't want to see Tony Khan wrestle.
Yeah. I like I am Rock Reigns, the devil, because hell will freeze over and he needs a new home. So, all right. Well, hey, what a Shane O'Mac fueled Wrestling Inc. Daily we had here today. We're going to have another great one tomorrow. Come on back. Be joined by Paul Pratt, a.k.a. Polio Del Mar. We're going to have another one of my WWE Royal Rumble Media Row interviews rolling out on the show. Tomorrow's is going to be Dewdrop. This interview has already made a lot of headlines because this is the interview where I ask her, I go, Dewdrop, when talent, they go from NXT to the main roster, usually Vince has to put his little touch on it and change it a little bit. And obviously you changed your name, but like, was there any gimmick idea changes for your transition? And that's when she told me that Vince wanted her to dance. He thought that she should dance more. He had seen her backstage shaking her ass, apparently, or something like that. And that got picked up everywhere, Brian. That has been running rampant of my Media Row interviews. Mm-hmm.
Rightfully so. Dewdrop is an awesome interview, an awesome person, and her impression of Vince in that interview is hilarious.
I know.
It's so real, and we hear so many stories about Vince wanting people to dance, and so to just have this confirmed yet again by Dewdrop with a spot-on Vince impression was hilarious to watch. You guys gotta go on Wrestling Inc.'s YouTube. Check out Nick's interview with Dewdrop. He got some great stuff. Oh my goodness.
I'm glad you enjoyed that. I was very happy with it. I was happy with all of it. I was happy with all of the interviews, but the Dewdrop one, I played Apollo early. It was fun. AJ Styles, getting him to shoot on Cody Rhodes. He's like, that guy's under contract. What the hell are you talking about?
And AJ shooting on Wrestling Inc. a little bit too.
He was doing it before I rolled the camera, and I was like, why don't you say it right to Raj? Why don't you look at that?
Oh my God.
So, all right, be well. And of course, everybody support Wrestling Inc. Daily. We're on iTunes or podcast platforms. I really genuinely appreciate the nice comments. It helps the show. SupportWrestlingInc.com. And of course, come back here tonight after AEW Dynamite. We got the Wrestling Inc. podcast going down. It's a lot like this show, only it's at night with different people. So, Brian, what do you want to plug, promote, put over here to wrap up the show today?
Oh, man. If you're in the Los Angeles area, tonight at 8 p.m., come to the Attitude Lounge in Beverly Hills, where I will be finally doing a show with Wrestling Inc.'s Alfred Konuwa. We're finally doing a show together. So, really excited to talk wrestling, do some stand-up, and have a good time. So come on out tonight to Beverly Hills and Attitude Lounge.
Make sure to take a photo of the two of you guys. You should tweet at us.
Oh, that would be great. I'm so excited to like see him in person. I've only seen him on video forever.
Yeah, or the cartoons he makes now, lambasting AEW constantly. I'm sure Tony Khan loves Alfred Kanoa. Oh my god. So they're like best friends, BFFs, constant DMs. All right. I'm at Nick_Hausman over on Twitter. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I'll talk to you tomorrow. And remember, if you winked,